Sio Nagata, Adrian Keen Lawado, Chichalagi, Dalonige de la Jutla Chinela. Hi everyone, I'm Adrian Keen. I am very excited to be able to introduce you to my friend and my colleague, in many ways my mentor, Dr. Jessica Metcalf. Dr. Metcalf holds a bachelor's degree from Dartmouth College and a doctorate from the University of Arizona. And she is the owner, creator, and founder of the Beyond Buckskin blog, which examines Native American fashion, and more recently, the Beyond Buckskin Boutique, which is a site to connect Native designers and artists with consumers. And Jessica and I first met in 2011. I had just started my blog, Native Appropriations, and she'd been blogging for about a year. And she put together a panel for the Native American Indigenous Studies Association on Native blogging, and it was the first time that I had been welcomed into a space with my blog to see it as academic work as well as a hobby. And since then, our friendship has grown, and we often end up in the same spaces and on panels together because we talk about similar issues. And it's just been so amazing to have a colleague and a friend who speaks the exact same language as me, this weird combination of Native artists and Native designers and academia and popular culture and social media. So she's really taught me that I'm not alone in this work, which has been very powerful. And she's been a support and friend through my own dissertation writing and my own scholarly work as well. But I want to take a second and sing the praises of the Beyond Buckskin Boutique and talk about what a revolutionary thing this has been for Indian country and for Native artists and designers. In this work of talking about cultural appropriation, for a long time there was no place for folks to go if they wanted to support Native artists and not support these appropriative places like Urban Outfitters or wherever. And the Beyond Buckskin Boutique has filled that void. And Jessica has really demonstrated how to run an indigenous company in the 21st century. So what it means to operate a company that is grounded in community, that is grounded in relationships, and is grounded in indigenous values. So she operates it out of her hometown of less than 50 people in the Turtle Mountains in her homelands. And is really dedicated to building up those relationships with designers, allowing them to be the contemporary Native people that they are. And through this boutique, we've been able to show the world what contemporary fashion, Native design, and Native art really looks like, and showcase the vibrancy and joy of being a contemporary Native person. So with that, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Jessica Metcalf. Wado, thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, for that lovely introduction. She really hit on everything that I'm going to be talking about today. Again, my name is Jessica Metcalf. I'm Turtle Mountain Chippewa from North Dakota, and I'm the owner of Beyond Buckskin, which is a website dedicated to promoting and selling Native American-made fashion. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about Beyond Buckskin, what I do with this space, why it's important, and where we started and where we're going to go next. Now, there's essentially two aspects to Beyond Buckskin. There's the blog side and the boutique side. The blog side really focuses on education, right? So we're talking about sharing stories, unveiling hidden histories, but also providing alternative perspectives. The boutique side focuses on economic development and the advancement of artists through, financially supporting this movement. With the blog, I write a lot, and the articles that I write about fall into three major categories, which are artist profiles, spotlights on historical or traditional items of adornment, and critiques of Native appropriations by the broader fashion industry. Through the artist profiles, I spotlight some very cool designers, and they range from everything from very accessible streetwear stuff to more higher-end couture pieces. This is addressed by Consuelo Pascual, who is Navajo and Mayan, and her ancestors were very knowledgeable observers of the sky world. So she takes this ancient inspiration point and she throws it into the future to create these very sleek, very chic, modern cocktail dresses that still incorporate these ancient design motifs, right? Like the step design that we see in the collar. But I also look at designers like Patricia Michaels, who is Taos Pueblo from New Mexico. You might recognize her from Project Runway, where she was one of the finalists there. She actually placed second overall and was asked back to be part of the Project Runway All-Stars because she was a huge favorite of viewers. But Patricia says that she begins each garment like a blank canvas. And indeed, like the majority of her dresses start off with white fabric that she draws on and paints and cuts up and then sculpts into these woven sculpture or these wearable sculptures. She said that she, being a Native American artist, she sees that artists tell cultural stories, right, through pottery or through their jewelry or their painting. And she liked the idea of being able to share her cultural stories through fashion. She thought that it's cool that people can wear these stories. They can feel these stories on their skin. But I also spotlight folks like Alano Idzurdza, who is Tahltan, Northwest Coast native from Vancouver, British Columbia. And he works in all the mediums. So he's in sculpture, painting, but also jewelry and fashion. He works in wood, silver, fabric. And what I love about this is that he has taken a painting that he's done with Northwest Coast Form Line and transferred it onto these leggings. So he's taken a two-dimensional piece of artwork and created it into a three-dimensional wearable piece of art. To Jared Yazzie, one of my favorite artists who runs a site called OXDX, and he is Navajo from Arizona, and he creates these very politically charged streetwear, offering alternative perspectives on history. Native Americans discovered Columbus is one of our most popular items we've sold, as in March. So we've sold over 600 of just this t-shirt alone, not the various renditions. But it just goes to show the power of streetwear. We all have t-shirts that we put on, and this is a way for us to express how we think about things without having to say a word. And Jamie Okuma is one of my favorite designers right now. She is Listeño and Shoshone-Bannock from Southern California. And she started off as a beadwork artist where she was replicating traditional styles of beadwork. And then she's gradually moved to, modernizing it and really creating her own edgy spin on it. So here on the left is a purse that she created that is fully beaded but has these really cool gold spikes on it. And this beadwork is based on traditional Plateau Native American beadwork. And what she's doing now in recent months is taking her own beadwork patterns and digitally printing it onto fabric that she then puts into these beautiful, elegant, flowing silk dresses, which are so exciting. I want to own one. Through these artist profiles that I'm either interviewing these artists or I'm spotlighting them, you get to learn about the diversity, individuality, creativity that exists within contemporary Native fashion design. And also that these designers aren't just plopping out of nowhere, but they're actually continuing a legacy, like in Jamie Okuma's work, where she's drawing that direct link from her fashion to traditional Plateau Native American beadwork. And to really drive home that point, that this stuff is continuing a legacy, I also like to spotlight some historical pieces. This is one of my favorite examples. This is a Plains men's warrior shirt from the 1800s. And I love it because it forces us to think about our warriors as also artists and historians, because they recounted their feats in battle. They drew those on their shirts that they would wear, and these were personal stories that would later go on to be tribal histories or national histories even. So what's cool about this piece is that there's two sides of it. On the left side, you'll see that there are these, oh, of course, I'm the one with the phone on. On the left, there are these anthropomorphic figures, and they're drawn with one leg with the little foot kicking out. And this is to represent how many enemies this shirt wearer took in battle in protecting their nation. They're drawn with only one leg because this is to represent that this individual will no longer walk on this earth. This individual is dead. On the right, you can see there's these horizontal lines with inverted triangles. And these symbolize pipes. And this is how many times this shirt wearer carried a pipe in battle. It might sound weird to carry a pipe in battle, but pipe is how we smoke the sacred tobacco. It's how we communicate with the spirit world. So to carry a pipe into battle is to ensure the spiritual and sacred safety of the war party. Pipe carriers were the first to go out into battle. They often carried no weapons with them, just the pipe, and they were the last to retreat to ensure the safe return of the war party. So somebody who has carried a pipe into battle this many times is truly an extraordinary person and a very brave person indeed. I also find myself talking about the Native American headdress quite frequently, and this is because it's just, an extraordinary object. It's a beautiful piece, beautiful thing, but also because of its misuse in popular culture. So there's many things that are significant about the Native American headdress. One of them is that they're comprised of feathers. And most often these are eagle feathers. And eagle is seen as an intermediary between the human beings and creator. When you do something good for your community that advances the well-being of your tribe, you are gifted with an eagle feather that is yours, that you earned. So somebody who has accomplished much can put these together and create a headdress. This is a way to show off your accomplishments. But also, individuals who have earned feathers on their own, maybe 3 or 4, can come together as a community and put their feathers together to create a long headdress, and then use that piece to elect a leader. This is how Sitting Bull was elected chief of the tribe. His headdress is comprised of the eagle feathers that have been earned and owned by others that have given up their feathers because they believe that this person is going to constantly work for their well-being and for the well-being of their tribe and nation. So this is significant because we actually still keep these practices going to this day. I have earned 2 eagle feathers myself. We still engage in these practices of earning and gifting feathers, and our leaders still wear headdresses. When we see And we work very hard to ensure that these traditional practices continue on to our nieces and nephews and children and eventually our grandchildren, because they're an important symbol of a value system of always working for your community and always thinking about your people. When Sitting Bull wears this headdress that's comprised of feathers by other people, then he realizes the importance of his leadership. He feels the weight of that, but also that we have his back, right, symbolically. So when we see individuals like musicians or reality stars or other pop culture icons wearing and misusing the Native American headdress, it sends a wrong signal to our youth who look up to media stars, who see them in magazines or on TV or at the movies. And we fight really hard to keep these practices going. When somebody at Coachella misuses the headdress, they show up at a musical festival wearing this, drinking alcohol with it, showing no respect for it. They're actually engaging in actions that actively work against us keeping these traditions alive. They're actively working to destroy our cultural traditions. And so we fight very hard to keep these practices going. So myself and Adrienne Keene will call people out who are misusing the headdress because of these reasons. And through talking about these historical pieces, I like to pull out that, hey, we have this rich history that's very cool. And these aren't just items, but they're objects with meaning and story. And I also like this idea that, hey, our ancestors were stylish in the past. Check them out. And I would love to focus solely on the really amazing work done by our contemporary Native designers and also the really cool pieces from the past, but I can't because stuff like this keeps popping up and keeps happening, and we have to be talking about it, we have to be critiquing it. So this is to sum it up, Native misappropriations in fashion. The image on the left is Jeremy Scott's collection for Adidas, in which he essentially ripped off a well-known and well-respected totem pole carver from the Northwest Coast and gave him no credit at all. You can Google totem pole, and it's the first one that pops up. So Jeremy Scott's design team really did not do a lot of research whenever they were looking into this. They just transferred that totem pole onto this piece. Interestingly, Adidas has stepped up to help schools that wish to move away from Native American mascots and to start up a new mascot, which is an interesting spin. I think this was in 2011, his collection. So it's interesting to see what's going on with the culture climate. On the top right is Oprah Winfrey and Ralph Lauren. This is during Oprah's final season where she was interviewing her favorite people, and one of them was Ralph. And throughout this episode, she is, this picture just gives me the heebie-jeebies for some reason. I don't know, it's such a creepy image for me. She's just cooing over him, you know, like, oh, you're so great. She calls him the epitome of the American dream. Ralph Lauren is a son of immigrants. He was born Ralph Lipschitz, changed his name to Ralph Lauren, and launched a brand that would, sell the American look, right, through higher-end streetwear stuff, accessible stuff. And to call him the epitome of the American dream is problematic, because what he has done is he has built his empire off of selling the native. And to call him the epitome of the American dream excludes us from that narrative. It not only excludes us, but it turns us into commodities that must be sold and consumed by others in their pursuit of the American dream. In fact, if you can watch this episode, it's still online, it actually transforms us into decor. So we end up being the teepees that they go into, the blankets that are on the sofa, and the picture of the young crow child that is in one of his picture frames in this teepee. Is really creepy. On the bottom right is KTZ's collection. This was launched just a couple months ago in the spring of 2015, and KTZ is a London-based brand where they ripped off a pipe bag that is owned by the Yellowtail family. It was Crow from Montana. They also ripped off a Lakota woman's fully beaded yoke dress that goes on top of a buckskin dress. And they also used the Navajo holy people in a corseted dress. Interesting side note, like 3 weeks ago, I was in California for a different conference, and I met somebody who, this is how it goes. So her friend is friends with KTZ. And she was going on about how great KTZ is, because for their collection before this one, they actually did an African collection. And according to her, they went to this remote African tribe and met with the spiritual leaders there and got permission by the African spiritual leaders to use their designs in their upcoming collection. And I was like, nah, yeah, I don't believe you. I have a hard time believing that this brand went to Africa, to a remote tribe, got the permission of the sacred, to use these sacred symbols and designs for use in a fashion runway show for them to profit off of. I have a hard time, but okay, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt. But I do know for a fact that KTC did not get permission from the Yellowtail family to use their pipe bag designs. They did not get permission from any Lakota person to use those fully beaded yoke designs. And they did not get permission from the Navajo spiritual leaders of using the holy people in their corseted dress. So I think we really need to be talking about this stuff. You know, who are these brands at all? Do they have any ethical obligations to Native people, right, to work with us? Or can they just use whatever they want? Which brings me to Urban Outfitters. In 2011, something very interesting happened, and that is that Urban Outfitters got caught. they had labeled close to 24 of their products as Navajo. Now this is a problem because, well, they don't have anything to do with Navajo people, but so they're selling the Navajo flask, the Navajo sock, the Navajo panty, but the Navajo Nation has actually trademarked their name, and any unauthorized use of the word Navajo is just basic trademark violation. So the Navajo Nation team of lawyers stepped up and sent them a cease and desist letter. Well, Urban Outfitters is a big company, and they have a lot of resources to keep those kind of letters and any kind of legal action tied up in courts. So Adrienne Keene, who runs Native Appropriations, caught wind of this and put them on blast on her blog site. And myself and a few other people, started in talking about this stuff. Of course, there is the legal aspect. To me, it's black and white. They're basic violation of the law. But, again, do these brands have any obligation? Can you be doing this stuff? There is so much at stake whenever there is a misrepresentation of people. What's interesting is when this was launched, the Navajo Nation is a dry reservation. They actually don't sell alcohol on their res. To have a Navajo flask is a misrepresentation. And they actually promote modesty and humility. So to have a Navajo panty is also very inaccurate and doesn't ascribe to their values as a people. So these are huge misrepresentations. But I want to quote FIT fashion law professor Guillermo Jimenez, because he brings up some great points. There's so much at stake in these types of situations. The major points are, number one, the counterfeiting of Native arts and Native designs has driven down the prices of Native art, and this is at the expense of Native artists. Number two, stereotypes have become commonplace in fashion. And this is at the expense of Native fashion designers. The people who I work with actually have to constantly battle these stereotypes. Number three, existing laws are insufficient for the protection of Indigenous cultural intellectual property rights. We have no protection over our intellectual property. And this is at the expense of Indigenous cultural heritages. And last, we really need to start incorporating social responsibility and strike up genuine partnerships and collaborations. Except for Urban Outfitters. They're just a terrible, terrible company. They're really bad. They have ripped off so many artists, and they really don't care about who they piss off. So I was, talking about this stuff, and I was in Urban Outfitters like 10 days ago. And it's just so beautiful. You walk in, you're like, oh my God, I want everything. No, they're a bad, bad company. Try to stay away if you can. So I was writing about this stuff, and I was asking my readers, hey, if you like the Native style, the Navajo trend, why don't you buy from actual Native American artists and designers? They exist. They're out there. They're really cool. And my readers were saying, yes, that's a great idea, yeah. But how? Where? Because at this time in 2011, there wasn't a space for somebody to easily access Native-made fashion. You had to go to a powwow or to Santa Fe Indian Market or to a reservation heritage center. It wasn't a space for the average person to go to. So I decided to create that space. And so in 2012, I launched the Beyond Buckskin boutique. And the goals, there were two main goals at the beginning. They're very basic, very simple. The first is to buy Native made, not Native knockoffs. And the second was to push Native fashion forward and create a platform. I knew that there was this really cool movement of Native fashion going on, and I wanted people to see it, so I wanted to kind of centralize it and bring it all together. I'm proud to say that Beyond Buckskin launched with a $100 investment that went to building the website, and I was a visiting professor at Arizona State University, and I was actually going into debt being a professor there, so I was very poor. And so what do you do when you want to launch a business but you have no money? Well, you get creative really fast. So I started talking to the designers who I knew from my research and from working on the blog. They knew who I was. We had this really great rapport. So we did a system of shipping with the first 11 artists. So an order would come through Beyond Buckskin. I would forward that order on to the artist. They would fill it and ship it directly to the customer, and Beyond Buckskin would retain a small percentage of the sales that went through our site. And I kept pumping that money back into the boutique to grow it from there. And we have now quadrupled. We have over 40 Native American artists represented on the site, and we have over 275 products available for sale. And the response has been overwhelmingly positive to what we're doing. We've been covered by CNN, ABC, NBC, CTV, Elle Canada, and most recently Martha Stewart. So these, supporters and customers are really connecting with our key stories, which are, to celebrate Native American design, to have a social impact, but also to continue traditions. And to provide a space for minority designers in an elitist industry. Third, job creation and economic development here through locally made or American-made products. And then the last one is, back to what I was doing with Urban Outfitters, KTZ, and all these other ones, which is to fight the man, right? The big companies that are profiting off of, selling Native American designs or Native American names, such as Navajo, that they actually don't have a right to sell, and instead to provide ethically produced alternatives. And all of our products are infused with meaning that we relay through ancient designs or techniques, natural materials, and cultural stories. Now, this last picture is of Martin Sensmeyer, who is a Native American model, actor, and among other things. And he's wearing porcupine quill work. This is more traditional style porcupine quill work, but we also do sell modern quill work. What's cool about this is that quill work is unique to Native North America. You will not find it anywhere else in the world. It is an artistic practice that predates contact. It predates the introduction of glass seed beads, and it's still practiced to this day, which is really cool. So whenever you purchase something like a pair of porcupine quill earrings, you are actively supporting the continuation of these ancient traditional artistic practices, which I think is really awesome. So I'm trained as an academic. I have my PhD, and so now, but I'm in business, and I'm like, what the heck? The first year that the boutique launched, I was like, is this gonna work? I have no idea if this is gonna work. We'll just try it out. And it was working. So I started to think, okay, like, why is it working? Why are we doing, like, okay, what's going on? So I started to pull out some things that I thought were our keys to being successful. The first has to do with being flexible. I work with these artists on an individual basis. Whenever we first bring on a new artist, I talk to them, work with them. What are their goals? Every artist has a different goal. Every artist has a different vision of what they want to do with their work. And I see what their needs are. Because while on the one hand, the customers needed this space to buy stuff, the designers also needed this space because they're the ones who come up with the design, they're the ones who execute it, they're the ones who photograph it, they're their own PR and marketing, they're customer service, they do the shipping. And it's a lot to ask of just one person. So Beyond Buckskin alleviates some of that. And also, a lot of our artists participate in ceremonies connected to their tribes and communities, and this makes it hard for them to pursue, a regular sort of career because they're needing to take time off. So we work with them, right? Like if for example, one of our artists needed to take off a month to focus on her son's ceremony that he was going to be a part of. And so we're able to work with them on those things and really, what can we provide for them that is missing from other options? So that's what I want to do, is to provide these, inventive strategies. The next key has to do with being responsive. If things are working, I quickly back them up. If things are not working, I try to adapt it or tweak it or pull back on it. Our supporters and customers are very vocal about how they think Beyond Buckskin should operate. They feel connected to it and invested in it, which is great. They will tell me, you need more stuff from Southeast tribes, you need more representation from California, you need more menswear, you need more higher end stuff. I'm getting constant feedback, and it's great, and I listen to them. Not all of it is something that we can do, but the stuff that we can, we will try to do, and to help create that space that really works for them as well. The next key worked fantastic for us in the beginning, but isn't working right now. So I'm gonna tell you why it was fantastic. We're a boutique, so we can get away with being limited, right? We have limited edition stuff. The stuff is one of a kind. So our core crew of customers knew this, they know this. So if they see something on the site, they'll be quick to buy it. They'll get it because they know that it might be the only one out there, or if we're restocking, it might be months down the road until we can restock. So this made for quick sales, and it allowed us to constantly be adding new stuff, which is needed because we're not just a Native American business, we're a fashion business. And we have to ascribe to fashion industry standards, which are to keep up with trends, keep up with the cycle, be constantly adding new stuff. It drives traffic. The problem now is that we're getting a whole crew of new customers in who weren't with us from the beginning, who don't know exactly what we're all about, and they're getting frustrated when they see that stuff sells out so quickly. So this is something that we're working on right now. The next key I labeled micro what? Because I didn't know what I was doing until somebody told me what I was doing, which is that I was giving microloans to artists. And it started off very organically. I have very good relationships with our designers. They'll text me at 7 o'clock in the morning or call me at 10 o'clock at night. We keep open those lines of communication. I got a text message from Natalie Waldman, who creates these awesome purses that are made out of deer hide. It's beautiful, all handmade. And she had come across this amazing, huge piece of white buckskin, and it was beautiful. It was high quality. She texted me that she needs this, but she doesn't have the cash to buy it right now from her, and she doesn't have time to go out and get a loan or get a credit card. It's right here. It's awesome. I need this. She's like, I could create 2 amazing purses out of this. And I'm like, okay, great. So I fronted her the money. She created the purses. We sold them on Beyond Buckskin, and it was fantastic. Another example was with Jared Yazzie. I asked him to be a part of one of our events, and I asked him to put together a new collection to debut at this event. And he's like, okay, I don't really have any money to buy the raw materials to create a new collection. So we fronted him the money. And it's up to the artist if they want to repay me the exact amount, it's 0 interest, or if we want to sell it on the boutique site. So there's opportunities for these guys, and it's really having to do with access to capital. Our artists do not have that right now. The next key is being online. As Adrienne mentioned, I operate Beyond Buckskin out of my tiny town. It's less than 50 people. I counted it at 32 one year, but I think the number's gone up from 32. When I first moved back home, I actually went into our city council meeting. I was like, we need to get some street signs up because I'm going to have some packages delivered. But the internet is so extraordinary and so powerful. You really got to take advantage of it because I can operate out of this tiny rural town of my home community and access a global market. So we have customers, of course, in the US, throughout the US and Canada, but also the UK and Australia, Sweden, Switzerland, Finland, Norway, all everywhere. It's really cool. Some places I've never heard of, which is really fun for me. But it's a way to connect artists to a broader customer base so that they get more compensation for the work that they put into their art. And it's really creating a more viable form of economic development. And so it's connecting the wearers of Native fashion with the creators of Native fashion. The next piece is the blog. So the blog started in 2009, and the boutique grew out of that. The blog is absolutely critical to the success of the boutique. When I'm not active on the blog, it shows because the boutique suffers. And it's because we cannot compete with price alone. We are not selling the cheapest beadwork. We cannot sell a fully beaded bracelet for $4.99. We just can't do that. And so we have to talk about why that is. So we'll talk about the artists, we'll spotlight the artists and the materials that they use, the techniques that they use, the stories that they're putting into this stuff. And all of that adds tremendous value to what we're offering on the boutique side. And then the last point has to do with social media. Social media, paid advertising doesn't work for us. And actually, advertising in general is going through a change right now. People don't want to be sold to. They want to be a part of something. They want to go on a journey and connect with the brand and hear stories. And that works for us because storytelling is central to Native American cultures. In Indian country, stories and storytelling are the ways that we convey our traditions and our cultures. Stories are central to our lives. Social media is a powerful platform for our voices and our stories to be heard. We can now reach our communities in a much broader way and highlight the positive stories that will elevate the successes in our communities. So this has been absolutely important to what we're doing. And we have a ton of challenges. This isn't all just peaches and roses or whatever. It's been hard. These are just some of the challenges I picked out and want to talk about today. I don't want to talk about them all. The first challenge has to do with stereotypes. And this is something that we've been battling since the beginning of time. No, since at least the 1940s, Cherokee fashion designer Lloyd Kivanou talked about how he has to battle these stereotypes, how he was running a fashion boutique out of Scottsdale in the 40s and 50s, and people would come into his store and expect him to be wearing a headdress and a loincloth, and he didn't. He was wearing contemporary clothes. So he was constantly battling that, and we're always working against that. And so one ways we go around that is through our name, Beyond Buckskin. Yes, we still work in Buckskin, yes. But we're gonna go beyond that. We're gonna think beyond that. Yes, Native fashion does include feathers, turquoise, and all that cool stuff, but there's also other things that are out there. So when you open your mind, we hope to blow your mind. The next challenge is the cheap knockoffs. There will always be knockoffs. There will always be somebody producing something cheaper, faster. So it's important that we always talk about and spotlight the artists and spotlight the techniques and the materials and the stories behind it. And the next challenge has to do with just plain old industry constraints. The fashion industry is one of the hardest industries to break into, regardless of your background. You have to have a lot of money and a lot of contacts, and we don't have that. So what we do is instead we work together. When we work together, we can share costs, but we can also cause a bigger ruckus. Like say, hey, look, it's not just one person designing, there's a whole crew of us doing this really amazing stuff. The last challenge is the boutique is in this interesting moment right now where we have to expand, we have to keep up with it. And so I'm struggling, or I was struggling with how to properly expand the business with keeping with our core values and mission. So I have, whoops, no, it's not over yet, people. I have become convinced that we need to develop a structure by which we facilitate the production of our top selling items, because I know what our top sellers are and I know that they sell out very quickly and the demand for them is very great. But how do we do that keeps with our values? And our values are to respect the designers, but also honor our past while sharing our artistic legacy with the world. So doing all these things. So in a few short months, in 2016, we will be launching the Beyond Buckskin Design Laboratory, which will be based out of the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation. And this will be a space where we connect our top designers with Native American artists' apprentices. So, and this is also coming out of an artist need. I, again, talk to these artists and they're telling me that they want to design, they want to create, but they're stuck being the manufacturer of one product that's a top seller. And they have tried to hire a relative to help them or other artists to help them, but they also don't want to manage other artists. So they're in this conundrum where they have to produce, but they don't want to be stuck producing the same thing and they don't want to manage others. So that's where Beyond Buckskin steps in. There's this really cool study that's done by the First Peoples Fund that found that 1/3 of all Native American people are either practicing or potential artists. That is a huge resource for us and needs to be properly encouraged and developed. So, you know, the vast majority of private enterprise that operates on reservations and the sector with the greatest potential for dramatic growth is the informal home-based business, which is most of the times arts. This is what we can tap. They need access, though. They need access to resources, such as high-quality supplies, a workspace, something so simple as a workspace. A lot of our artists operate out of their homes, off of their kitchen table. They also need access to training, mentorship, and also markets, like I said before. My favorite example is Pine Ridge. Pine Ridge has an awesome collective of quill work artists that are doing just phenomenal work. But their market is very tiny. It's the people that shop at their heritage center. So what we're seeing is that the quill work itself is flourishing and growing. It's high quality, it's beautiful, it's amazing. And at the same time that the quality is going up, the prices are going down because they're competing for a few customers. So they're selling these fully quilled earrings for $18. Which means that they are not being properly paid for their time, for the materials, or for their creativity. And so we want to help with that. Again, help access these different resources that are needed. And we want to ensure that our Beyond Buckskin's economic development practices are sustainable, because right now they're not sustainable. So we have to move forward in a way that's sustainable, resilient, and regenerative. Because we are more than just a fad, we are more than just a trend. We hope to keep sticking around for generations to come. The elements are already in place. We have the talent, we have the product, we have the demand. We just need to pull all of these together into one streamlined opportunity for these artists, where the apprentices will have the opportunity to grow, to refine their skills, to learn about business, and to think about themselves as entrepreneurs. They don't think about themselves as entrepreneurs. They do not see art as a viable career option right now. So we're going to be creating that for them with working with my tribal college, where they already teach classes in beadwork or moccasin making, and we'll create that funnel where they then come work with us as apprentices and then go on to be some of our top designers running their own businesses. And then also this will allow our key designers to do what they love to do, which is to design and create awesome stuff. So through these community-based initiatives that are simultaneously locally produced, culturally relevant, and globally known, we get an opportunity to change what the fashion industry looks like. And that's very exciting. So that's what we're hoping to do in 2016. Thank you.